Hello and welcome back to the Fastest Podcast. We are still doing our season review of teams, and today it's Williams Racing, and they're a team on the up. You know, there's a lot of positivity around them. They had their greatest result in years in the Constructors' Championship, and they got podiums. They got two podiums this season at the hands of Carlos Sainz. So it's all positive about Williams. Tell me how well that team done this year.
I mean, first of all, I want to say I told y'all. I told y'all at the start of the season. I said Williams will get podiums, and they did. To be honest, I expected Albon to be on the podium at least once. He wasn't. Sainz, however, did amazing throughout the year. Even though, you know, the first part of the season was rocky and he didn't have the momentum or the pace or the strategy. Williams has become one of my favorite teams in F1. Not just because they're doing well and not just because Carlos Sainz is in the car, but it's the entire atmosphere of it. That team that Vowles has brought up and got working, it's really interesting and fun and dynamic. He brought in two great drivers. He brought in a bunch of staff which are doing amazing jobs, all in preparation for 2026. And compared to Aston Martin, they did get their big moments in this year, even though they really didn't anticipate it.
Agree with everything that Pigeon has said, but now I will have to say some disagreeable things about Alex Albon. I'm sorry. I really expected Albon to be the dominant driver this season. Carlos Sainz is fantastic. He's always been fantastic. He's always been solid. Whatever team you've put him in, he's brought results that weren't expected necessarily at the time. We saw it at McLaren. We saw it at Ferrari. And now we've seen it again at Williams. He absolutely cannot ever be counted out. But that was Albon's team. He was the one making us all go last year with Williams. And in my eyes, he's under-delivered this season. When you look at the start that Sainz had, like you say, very rocky season. And even, okay, on the other side of getting the podiums, he still had some difficulties. But let's be real, if we were predicting those Williams podiums, we were predicting Albon to be the one on the podium, I would say. And a lot of the time both times, not a lot of the time, both times that we've seen Sainz on the podium, Albon's not been in the vicinity, really. So I think that's going to be some difficult questions for next year, because if they are in a race-winning position next year, which I'd really like to think that they are, or they will be, and Albon's not there again, then what? Because, okay, he's done a fantastic job developing that car. Excellent development driver. And we've seen that since he joined Williams. He's been exceptional in that car. But now Sainz has come in, shown him up a little bit. What do you do next year if he's, again, not there? You're going to have to bring someone else in. I'm very sorry. Love the guy. Think he's great. But I don't think that he's delivered in the same way, given what we've seen the car to be capable of. Pigeon, you look like you disagree with me.
I think you might have a little bit of recency bias on that one. I think you've forgotten some of the amazing results that Albon has gotten in the start of the season. I think he has 4 P5 finishes. You might say a P5 is not a P3, but a P5 is still 10 points or 8 points or somewhere close to that. Yeah. So
I absolutely do not take away from those results, but what I will say is that when the car was capable of being on the podium, where was he? Like, that's the thing. Because the car was capable of that. And Sainz did not have a perfect season by any means. But you'd think that given the fact that it was Albon that was the development driver to get that car to the position where it could fight for a podium, and why was he not the one on the podium? And maybe I'm being overly critical, maybe I'm being overly harsh, but it's one of those things where a lot of the time we talk about kind of podiums that people get by chance, and we sort of say, sure, maybe that result was a fluke, but you had to be there and ready to take that opportunity when it was there. And Sainz was always there when both of those opportunities came around. That's kind of my criticism. Why was it not closer in those times where it could have been closer?
What I will say to back Jazz up with stats, when Sainz finished on the podium in Azerbaijan, Albon was P13. When Sainz finished on the podium in Qatar, Albon was P11, so he didn't even score both on both occasions. And in fact, getting rid of sprint races, and we're talking about Grand Prix only, Albon didn't score a single point during Grand Prix races since Monza.
That is
so
shocking.
I do see where Jazz is coming from.
I'm so glad you pulled up the stats because I did not have those ready.
I'm always prepared. What I would say, and I'll throw it back to you in a minute, Pigeon, because this is a really interesting discussion, that I think Albon had the better of the opening stages of the season when Sainz was getting used to the car and he had technical problems. I don't think he started in Austria. Or he did, but
because of fires.
So he had technical problems, and he was given, in my opinion, unfair penalties. I'm looking at the Zandvoort incident, for example. Albon, yes, he had a bit of bad luck, but ultimately, towards the second half of the season, since Monza, the pace hadn't been there from him. So I'm going to throw this to you, Pigeon. What can you see going into next season? Will Sainz dominate Albon once he's got it all going? And then if you are James Vowles, what do you do? Do you upgrade?
It's a difficult question. But what I will say is that, yes, Sainz definitely upstaged him towards the end of the season. Qualifying was really important. That final stages throughout the entire season, but especially towards the end. If you weren't really comfortable with that car, the way that you were in the front of it, and I have no data for this, but I might guess, they did develop the car throughout the year, and one of the possible reasons could be that Albon wasn't as comfortable while Sainz was, and he was scoring points. Nevertheless, both of them did great jobs this season. They were both in the top 10. Like you said, best season in years. That Baku podium, which was, I wouldn't say a fluke, but he was lucky to be in Baku qualifying in that provisional pole, and then he backed it up with that P2 in the end. Qatar, on the other hand, was just an amazing display of speed, strategy. Also, they kind of knew that they were going to be strong that weekend. So that's a really strong point from them. But for 2026, I think they have just a really strong team with plenty of experience from not only within that team, but they have drivers who have been in different teams, who have been in multiple teams with multiple management strategies. One of them has been in Ferrari. And that will help them for next year. We're going to see completely different driving styles compared to this year. More options when it comes to setup. So I think we'll just have to wait and see. But I don't think that any one of those drivers are going to really be a disappointment next year.
Okay.
They are both strong drivers.
And another point I will add is when Albon was having his really, really strong, first, we'll call it 10 to 12 races, Sainz was still scoring points. He was getting those P8s, P9s, P10s. But when it was the other way round, Albon wasn't scoring. I'm not an Albon hater. I actually...
Neither am I,
I think he should have been given more time at Red Bull. I think he was just, treated unfairly at Red Bull. And I loved it when he got back into F1 with Williams. And I think he has done a great job. But has he taken, the team? Because he did beat Sainz in the standings.
I
Let's
was
also
about to say that since you are so adamant.
No, I'm playing devil's
season. Look at the standings. He did finish P8 ahead of his teammate with 9 points separating the two.
Yeah, of course. And,
I think he would have preferred to have the podiums, but that's neither here nor there.
I mean...
it's a balance. It's a balance.
It's balance. I really respect that everything Albon's done. I really don't want to take away from the season that he had. I just think that next year, if we have this again, they will have to ask some uncomfortable questions. And I just want all of us to be emotionally prepared for that to happen. Because, I mean, like it has been impressive. They've had a great season. And I think Williams have kind of, that good old Sebastian Vettel quote of, even if you say you're not a Ferrari fan, you're a Ferrari fan. I think Williams is that. Everyone kind of wants to see them do well. Everyone wants to root for them. Like, you never really want to...
Until they are fighting your favourite driver.
Yeah, once they start doing too well. But for now, I think everyone wants to see them succeed. The same way that we all kind of do want to see Ferrari succeed. Hate to say it, but it's true.
Do we?
Yeah, but no one's having a bad day when Ferrari do well. Let's put it like that. Like, no one's that pressed about it. Come on.
Because at the moment, Williams are mid. They're literally the middle of the table.
Underdog.
That's a fair assessment. They are mid. And Ferrari, they're higher than mid, but they're not there.
Everyone wants Williams to do well. And this year, they've done well. And we've all enjoyed it. And we all want them to do even better next year. And I think that is really important with what James Vowles has created there. I was so happy when he became team principal there, because it just made so much sense and it's all come together so extremely well. I mean, even when they had Colapinto in the car last season, you could see that we were just getting into that sweet spot. And I absolutely don't want to take away from Alex Albon because he's had a great year. They both have had a great year. And to finish P5, to finish ahead of the likes of Aston Martin, for example, a bigger team with more money, with more resources. When you take that into account, it's very impressive. So the teams that they finished ahead of, that is very impressive. Because the teams that they finished behind, of course they were going to finish behind them. Does that make sense? So where they've ended up is just fantastic.
It's where they should be.
Yeah.
The perfect summary of Williams in 2025 would be a quote from Albon in Miami, which was that he was happy to be able to see Max finishing a race. He was that close.
Yes.
He could actually see Verstappen go over the line. And that was true for multiple points in this season as well, where they were close to Red Bull. And I'm not saying that Red Bull was the strongest this season as well. They also weren't the worst, but for Williams to be close enough to see one of the top 4 teams, to be able to battle with them throughout the year, not just in one occasion, but in multiple parts of the season, it's special. And it really shows how far they have come and how far they will come next year.
Let's have a quick word on next year then. 2014, that was the last major change in regulations. And Williams were consistently fighting for the podium. They got it right. And they also got it right because they had that Mercedes engine, which was powerful, obviously in 2014. The current predictions are Mercedes are going to have one of the best, if not the best engine. Of course, that's only a prediction. Do they have the team that can create a car around one of the best engines on the grid, potential best engines on the grid, to make them be challenging for wins, challenging for podiums more often? And can they break into that top 4?
I think one of the advantages that Williams has is they have 2 drivers with a very similar driving style. So they don't have to go overboard on trying to find a good setup. You've had instances, yes.
I was just going to say, in support of Alex Albon, I will say he was not always very happy with setup and strategy this season, which is maybe where Carlos Sainz kind of took the cake a little bit. But that is just a mere add-on to what you were saying. So please do continue.
But there have been instances of a team having two drivers who have really different driving styles. I think Verstappen and Perez, they had, like oil and water compared driving styles. Whereas Sainz and Albon, they both want a car that is pretty strong on the front end and smooth to drive. So that will help them for next year, I believe. There will be way more setup possibilities with ground effect finally being gone. And hopefully if we can get some actual racing action as well, we can see what both drivers can do.
I'm just excited. I'm really, I want them to do well next season. And this season, if it was any indicator, kind of tells us that hopefully they will be up there. They've had pace. So if they can kind of, like you say, have a car that goes around that engine very well, hooray. I want to see them both on the podium together. I want to see that. And unfortunately, something to account for is maybe if they've got that Mercedes engine, it won't be about how well they do, but how badly that the people, Ferrari, that they have in front of them, how badly they do with their under the regulations. That is true of any team in the sport. Yeah. So if we were looking at next season based on the standings that we have now, the top 5 that we've had this season, which we really might not be. We could see Red Bull in P11 and Haas taking race wins. We absolutely don't know. But the fact of the matter is, if you take it based on this season, it could very much come down to the worst machinery in front of them or the better machinery behind them. It's such a guessing game. But based on kind of the formula that we've seen at play this season, I would say the chances are good. I feel confident. In James Vowles, we trust.
Brilliant. Well, it's all looking positive for Williams. They've had a very good season, breaking into that top 5 this term. And we're looking forward to seeing what they can do next year. Fingers crossed that Williams can be up there. They're a stable name. And, like you guys have said, everyone wants to see a team like Williams do well. And, it's a good rebuild story. That is it. But we will be back as we look into the top 4 in the championship. Those videos will be coming out soon. You can also find us on all the socials, including Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you want to find us. It's bye from me and bye from Pigeon and Jazz.